What's good, you guys? Cass back with another video, and this is the Josh PC version 3.0. Now, for those who aren't aware, this has pretty much been my main PC that I've been using for the better part of like 7, 8 years. It's really only been the past like 2 years, maybe like a year or so after I launched like my channel, where I actually got newer PCs. But essentially, I was playing off the same platform for quite some time since I first built my system back in 2012. So this is a very old system, but I always had in the back of my mind, what would it be like if I was still in high school if I wanted to build like my dream system, like get all the parts non, like no, sacrifices made, just balls to the walls performance on the platform that I had. This is what it would be like. I got a new TV for my living room, and I needed a PC, or didn't need, but wanted a PC to actually hook up and use it on a regular basis. And since I did that, I've really been enjoying just computing from the couch. Way different from computing from the desk, and it's kind of just more comfortable. But this is the PC I've been using for quite some time, and as I've stress tested and like gotten it right to where it is, I'm ready to show it off. Now, there was like one last part I wanted to get in here before I actually made this video, but unfortunately, there's a guy on YouTube. I think his channel's name is Mere Mortals. Link in the description if you guys are interested. But he's claiming to have the fastest FX 9590 system in the world, and unfortunately, I can't let him take that because this is that system. And we're not talking about like LN2 extreme overclockers or anything like that. We're talking strictly about PC that can be used on a regular basis, 24/7, no issues whatsoever. So, mere mortals, I'm sorry, but this is the fastest. Hopefully, you're able to beat me. Not sure if you will, but I'm going to go over all the parts and maybe like some of the stuff I tell you, you can apply to your build and you can see which one comes out on top. Without further ado, guys, I'll take the side panel off and we'll get talking about the actual components on the inside of this PC. Starting with the case, this is the Thermaltake View 27. I bought this case back in 2016. This was like the first major upgrade I did to my PC, my first gaming PC ever. I think I got a new case, a new power supply, and a cooler, I believe. Um, no, actually, I think I got the case, the graphics card, and a new monitor, like a widescreen monitor. And then later that year, I got a new power supply, cooler, and the 9590 for the first time. Now, back then, I really wasn't the best overclocking, so I actually did end up blowing up that CPU. So this entire, motherboard CPU combo I got actually locally in Tampa for like $200, which is, looking at the price of this motherboard used, is crazy. This is the Sabertooth Tough R3.0 for the AM3 Plus platform. There's three versions of the Sabertooth. There's the 2.0, which is the most well-known. There's the 2.0 Gen 3, and then there's the 3.0. Now, the Tough Sabertooth was viewed to by most as the best overclocking and just motherboard in general for the AM3 Plus platform. Some would argue that the Crosshair V Formula and the V Formula Z were technically better compared to this one, but in all honesty, they had pretty much the exact same performance. Unless you were getting into like LN2 overclocking, you really weren't going to run into any differences between the Sabertooth and the Crosshair at the time. So the version 3.0 is just kind of in some cases that much better. Now, Mere Mortals, he's using the R2.0 Gen 3, which actually had a PLX chip installed and allowed it to run at the PCIe lanes around Gen 3 speeds. This one is stuck to Gen 2 speeds, but I think what it gives away in that it gains back in just overall functionality. It has an actual M.2 ports installed in here, which the other one didn't. You can do a BIOS mod to actually be able to boot from PCI devices, but this one can do it natively. It also has, I think, a better power delivery capabilities, better heat sinks, and better cooling. In a lot of cases, that's like the major deviation between me and Mere Mortals builds. Overall, though, relatively similar. FX 9590 installed in there. It's a pretty good CPU. I know it's not like the fastest, but I really do think the 9590 got a really bad rap for a lot of different circumstances. While the architecture isn't the greatest, it was coming out at a time where multi-threaded workload really wasn't a thing. So if it was to release in like modern day standards, assume like IPC is somewhat equivalent, it's competing with somewhat on the same level as CPUs that are released now, it wouldn't be, I don't think it's nearly as bad. So obviously the implementation of newer OSs and newer schedulers that can take advantage of the multi-threaded performance that the CPU has, it actually has aged relatively well. I remember playing Warface, for example, on this CPU at like 70, 80 FPS max back in 2014. Now, if I fire up that game, I'm hitting like well over 200 FPS, which is kind of crazy to think about. Beyond the CPU and the overall like optimizations it had at the time, cooling has gotten way better. You can definitely see that I have some pretty exotic, high performance cooling in here. At the time, the 9590 was sold with like a 120 AIO from Cooler Master that was terrible. The Gen 6, Gen 5 and Gen 6 Asus coolers weren't out yet, which had a huge revision of the actual pump and for cooling performance. And the motherboards just weren't up to snuff either on this platform. AMD kind of got the leftover parts and components from a lot of these motherboard manufacturers. So even if I guess it's like one of the rare cases of a motherboard that's actually built to handle the performance. But for a platform that costs this much, a lot of cooling on the market wasn't even that much available. Water cooling wasn't as easy as it is now. You had to be spending like multiple hundreds, if not $1,000 more dollars on this platform to actually get it to function properly back in the day. Versus now, any modern AIO, any modern air cooler could probably handle a 9590 with relative ease, so long as you have the settings set correctly in the BIOS, which we'll go over in a second. Water cooling is way more standard as far as custom stuff. A lot of these parts are relatively expensive and they're relatively easily available. A lot of the Chinese manufacturers are way better quality wise compared to what they used to be. That is what allows this CPU I will say to perform anywhere from 20 to 25% faster than a normal FX 8350. 1TB 970 EVO Plus SSD installed on the bottom, along with an ADATA XPG, I think it's X8200, 2TB SSD in a adapter card. I also have an Asus Wi-Fi adapter just because it's pretty old. I had lying around, so might as well throw it in there, even though I use Ethernet. RTX 2080 Ti is a Founders Edition with a Kraken G12, Asus Tech 650LX, and a backplate from EK just to make it look really nice and clean. Ripjaw Z Series by G-Skill at 2400 MHz, 32 gigabytes worth, although mine kit's running at 2200, just under 2200, it's like 2175. Effective clock is close to like 2190. After it does the FSB changes for actual real world use. The CPU's at 5.1 gigahertz and it's also clocked around 2600 megahertz on the Hyper Transport and the North Bridge. So I'm pushing pretty high clock speeds on this system. Well, actually, it's 5.125 is what I have set. Effective clock is closer to 5.15 gigahertz. LEPA 1000 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. I could have gotten a more modern power supply with more powered saving features, a lot more protection features compared to what this has, but it has the power and it has the efficiency, and I already had it, so it made sense. The only modification I did to this is that I cleaned it out and I also replaced the fan with a higher performing airflow fan in there. That's quieter, but also moves more air, so better performance and better temperatures. You would notice the Vengeance RAM cooler. This is just because I'm running relatively high voltage on the DDR3 kit in here. And then the custom AIO. I recommend, looking into building custom AIOs. I'll make a separate video exactly on water cooling as a series. So I won't get into too much detail, but just know that this is like essentially a custom water loop, although in AIO form. So there's no reservoir. Technically, there's a small reservoir inside the actual pump block combo, but essentially no reservoir, and it's all just a simple loop, and it all runs off a single cable off the DDC pump that comes off right here. Benefits of this, long story short, is that with how expensive AIOs are nowadays, especially like high-end ones, you can get this for roughly the same price. I'm going to pay like $220 for this to assemble it. DDC pump, which is way better quality, higher quality water block as far as heat transfer goes, and you have high performance radiator options. This is 360 millimeters by 54 millimeters thick, so full copper as well. So really nice there. Now, for those who are curious, this is how I've actually set up on my system. I actually got this little I guess you want to call it a desktop floor mount, cart that it rolls around on. I did this primarily so that there's enough airflow going into the power supply underneath, so that stays and gets cool and everything. But yeah, this is what it looks like plugged in. So I guess now it's just fire the thing up and see how it performs. So I got my TV turned on. I'm going to go ahead and I guess first show you guys how long it takes to boot in. As you can see, I renamed this HDMI output to Josh PC. Let's go ahead and see how long it takes to turn on. All right, just press the power button. See what happens. At the splash screen, and we should be getting into Windows any second now. Now, I will say that this thing has a pretty fast boot up time. in comparison to even my old, like more modern PCs, simply because I did a pretty lightweight install of Windows 11 on here. I can also make a video on that, but again, there's just probably plenty of tutorials out there that you can follow. Essentially, you just instead of downloading the you know media creation tool and doing it the normal way, you just download the ISO file of Windows 11. Use one of these like third-party ISO file changers. I think I used Rufus on mine, and I was able to go in and delete a lot of the telemetry, and I also deleted like the TPM check and also the CPU check. That way I don't have any of those weird watermarks just appearing in the bottom, even showing that like I don't meet the system requirements, which technically this doesn't, but you know it runs perfectly fine. I'll show a couple overlays of some of the benchmark scores I have. I don't want to just sit here and run a Cinebench stress test because in all honesty, guys, even though it's faster than your normal FX 8350 and 9590 systems, it's still pretty slow. It takes about 3 minutes or so to actually get done. But what I do want to show you is that you can actually still play games pretty decently on this PC. So this first game I'm firing up is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and it runs surprisingly well. This is at 4K. I think I'm running DLSS, but which is upscaling from 1440p. But the performance will actually surprise you. I don't think you'll probably see similar performance like you would see on a normal 8350 or 9590 review, and I think that's just simply because overclocks push pretty far, and you know a lot of other people I just don't think know how to optimize the overclocks for those systems. So as the game loads, I'll talk about the overclock. A couple things to note when actually overclocking this system. On the motherboards, the Asus motherboards, they have this setting called CPU Northbridge voltage. I'm pretty sure every single motherboard will have this as well, but I know that on the Asus motherboards, they default to extremely high numbers. Like you're going to be pushing 1.4 volts on the Northbridge, CPU Northbridge, which is way too high, and that's alone will like make your temperatures go absolutely crazy. So I lowered mine, I think, to 1. It's like plus 0.1 volt offset on the stock, which is puts it on 1.2375 volts. That's enough to get you 2400 megahertz, 2600 megahertz in my case on the North Bridge. No problem whatsoever. You'll also notice that I had a little Noctua 40mm fan installed on my North Bridge. Having some sort of active cooling is a given on these setups. You really need to do that because if you don't, you're going to run into a lot more instability and issues. And the only other way to like keep the temperatures down on that is to simply lower the North Bridge frequency, which we don't want to do because we want most performance possible. So as you can see, navigating through these screens is a little bit laggy, I would say, compared to other PCs, but not to the point where I would like be utterly disappointed. So let's go ahead and go to the firing range. Won't be an exact replication of what to expect here. You can see there are some little microstutters here and there, especially when it's first loading the map and everything. But for the most part, performance is better than what you would expect. And right now it is running at with DLSS turned on. I can actually go into the settings right now and turn that off if you guys are curious what it looks like running at native. So let's go to quality, DLSS, and turn it off. Apply settings. So now we should be rendering at the full 840 by 2160. And performance honestly didn't change that much. You know what, for this video, I'll actually just go ahead and make it with native 4K. But you can see that, the CPU isn't really struggling that much. And a lot of people would see this and think, it's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and hop into a game real quick. I usually don't play Modern Warfare on this PC. This is like a game I would normally play at my desk. I'm controller inept, and I would really need to get a controller. Right now I have like a keyboard and mouse just on my coffee table, and it's not the most ergonomic. So the gameplay is going to be a little bit scuffed, for lack of better terms. But it's a good representation on what you can expect on this type of PC. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Running the larger scale maps is going to be more of a challenge. So, sticking to the smaller maps is kind of a given on this setup. But again, we're running at 4K native. Running something at 1080p or like even 1440p upscaled from 1080p will probably be a lot easier compared to what we're dealing with right now. It really doesn't help that I'm using Modern Warfare 2 guns on this game, because the visual recoil is actually insane. But I think they look cooler. I've always been someone to challenge myself. But as you can see, like, other than the, my terrible aim, there's plenty of frames to be had here at native 14 or native 4K to be able to play this game no problem whatsoever. Oh my lord, my aim's terrible. Oh my god, I really just did that. Ain't no way he did that to me. Alright, you know what? At least I'm more accurate. Oh my lord, my aim is scuffed right now. Bro, just let me get one kill with this gun. I probably should have put my glasses. I can't see anything. Teammates carrying me though. I am not doing well in this game. Hey, let's get it. Last kill. Well, not my best gameplay, but I think I got last. Nope, I didn't. Never mind. Oh, that was the last kill? Just right after. It is what it is. But yeah, as you can see, gameplay is perfectly fine, at least on the small maps. Something a little bit more realistic that I would normally play on here. It's probably a game like Bloons Tower Defense. Now, I'm not the best Bloons player, but I do play with my friends occasionally, and it's pretty fun playing it on the big screen. Um, being able to see a map that large, has its benefits. So again, no problem at all loading into the game. Takes a little bit longer. I mean, again, this is a 10-year-old CPU. If I go here to play, let's see, what's a good map? I don't know. Fire something real relatively easy, and then we'll just go ahead and hop into it. Let's see, what do I want to place? Put a sniper, like, here. Alright, I've been playing for like a 30 minutes or so. I have a pretty decent setup now. Let me turn it down so it's not like too loud. Even like in a pretty intensive map like this, um, slows down every so often, but not to the point where you have to worry about crashing or anything like that. When I play this game, it's like always impossible for me to find my cursor. There's like so much going on. I wish they made the cursor a different color. Alright guys, about 10 rounds later from the last clip, when this thing gets going, it actually starts to chug. But I think this would happen on any computer in these later rounds. Not to the point where you're like going to crash or worry about that. It's just so many things going on the screen. And again, this is at 4K, so that probably isn't helping anything at all either. Now what you're thinking, this isn't supposed to be like a stress test, because you're like, any PC can run like Bloons Tower Defense. The thing is like there's a bunch of games out there that, are like this, don't really require that much. So unless you're playing the latest AAA titles every single year, and even then there might be only like 1 or 2 years out of like a course of 6 years where a title really comes out that really pushes the limits of modern day hardware. Cyberpunk definitely was that game, but in recent memory there really hasn't been anything else quite like it. A lot of games just coming out not optimized. We're starting to chug there. Just comes out not optimized to actually run appropriately. Cyberpunk will be hard to run regardless of how well it's optimized. Other games might run like trash the first time they launch, but after drivers come out, they run perfectly fine. So, like I said, there might be one title every 4 years, or one every 3 years, I guess, if they do the math right, that is really going to push the limits of every single new PC out there. It's not a common occurrence, which is why you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. Alright, I'm going to stop it right there. I don't know if I'm going to lose any time soon.
So yeah, that's the video on the Josh PC. I'm going to go ahead and do a voiceover and let some gameplay footage play at this very last part as I close out the video. But hopefully the actual performance of this PC stands its own merit. Again, I think I gave you sufficient evidence that even 10 plus years later, this PC is still able to function like a normal PC, modern PC would, as you would expect it to. It did take some fine tuning and tweaking, and it did require a little bit of knowledge. I don't think this is like an entry level or like beginner level PC build by any stretch of the imagination. But it's, for one thing, it's fun just to mess around with old hardware and see how it still performs. But again, at the end of the day, I think it gives you perspective on what's necessary in a PC build, because I guarantee you someone can go to Micro Center and spec out a $600 to $700 PC that would run circles around this specific gaming PC. Even most pre-builts on the market now would run circles around this gaming PC. So it just kind of depends on what your workload is. Are you trying to edit 8K or 4K video footage? Well, yeah, it's probably not the best for that. But if you're just using it for a home theater PC and what's that workload look like? I know for me personally, it's I just wanted a system where I could hop on Discord with my friends and stream live sports or watch TV shows together. That's primarily what I do. When I'm on Discord with my friends, I don't necessarily hop on to play games together. Sometimes we do, but most of the time, if it is, it's kind of like more party style games like Arctic Phone or things like that in nature. But a lot of times we'll just hop on Discord, chill, talk, and watch TV or live sports together. And I wanted to be able to do that from the couch rather than having to sit at my desk all the time, have my mic set up on me, or like be on my laptop. Doing it from the couch is more like comfortable of an environment, and this PC achieves that 100%. Beyond that, I've been getting into some more single player games like older Need for Speed games. I've got some like indie horror titles that I'm playing on my own. Because I got to the point where I was making a lot of videos, and if I wasn't making videos, I wasn't playing video games. So now I'm taking a little bit more time to myself to play some games by myself and just enjoy them for what they are, rather than having to worry about making a video about them. This PC has given me more perspective and allowed me to dive deeper into what's actually out there available on Steam for me to play. And even though it's not like the most graphically intensive or high fidelity experience out there on the market, it still is fun, regardless. So I would say this PC is able to run, more than over 90% of the games that are available on Steam. And when you put it in that perspective, it should be fine. And when you think about, modern PCs that people using nowadays that will put this thing to shame, you really shouldn't be worried about, not being able to afford the latest gen 4090, graphics card for $2,000. So hopefully this kind of, helps your perspective on that. And hopefully that'll also give you perspective on, older hardware. There's optimizations that can be had across the entire board, whether it's like optimized solid Windows, whether it's refining your overclock, whether it's changing out some specific parts here and there to really maximize the performance on a specific platform. All these things can have a benefit and serve a purpose. And also, Mere Mortals, I mean, you got the benchmark numbers, you got the gameplay footage. So let's see where your PC stacks up in comparison. That's all I got for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.